Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends, it is my pleasure to participate in such an important event that addresses enlargement policy organized by the group of Socialists and Democrats in the European Parliament, which has already become a tradition and valuable experience of our political family. I want to express gratitude because for us from the Western Balkans, such initiatives are both support and encouragement on the way to achieving common European goals. The activities of your leaders, your prime ministers, ministers, commissioners, parliamentarians, mayors, and other representatives had and have an impact on Brussels and the enlargement policy and are respectively accepted by our membership and the general public. We owe special thanks to the rapporteur, Mr. Tonino Pizzula, who with numerous initiatives and reactions has had a positive influence on overcoming the internal challenges we were facing, as well as on the adoption of numerous resolutions, which most often have contained recommendations for further actions on the path to EU integration, thus always maintaining a European perspective certain. And what is even more important, that he has always emphasized that at the same time it is political, security and economic interest of the EU. For us in the region of the Western Balkans and Montenegro, messages that the policy of enlargement remains high on the agenda of European socialists are encouraging. However, we are concerned about the situation not only in Montenegro, but also in the region, which is much worse than a decade ago. Anti-European forces are rising again. The policy of drawing ethnic borders in the Balkans is awakening as in the 90s, and there is intention to prove that multi-ethnic democracy is not possible in our countries, as well that the European perspective has an alternative. On behalf of the Democratic Party of Socialists of Montenegro, allow me to introduce some important elements of the current political situation in our country, which make us, first of all, express concern for the future European path of Montenegro. The past 3 years in Montenegro has been completely wasted. We have two unsuccessful replaced governments, a stumbling economy and expelled credible foreign investors, and Montenegro, that opened all negotiation chapters a long time ago and was a leader in integrations, now is stuck in that process, as evidenced by the last progress report, which is the worst since Montenegro negotiated for its membership. We have not closed a single negotiation chapter, and out of 9 billion euros that the EU has allocated for projects in the Western Balkans from 2021 to 2027, we have not used a single monet. EU funds remained unused due to poor state management. The crisis is present in all forms of social activity, from healthcare to the economy and education. And the worst of all is that the inadequate functioning of institutions has also caused a serious political crisis. The fact that from the circumstances we observe tells us that even with the new government that has just been formed, things will not be much better. Today's parliamentary majority is made up of parties that are in the service of Russian aspirations, which was confirmed by the newly elected President of the Assembly, who comes from the ranks of those political structures that cannot come to terms with state independence, nor with membership in NATO, as well as leading role in EU accession. The very ideological range of participants gathered in the ruling structure requires serious effort and compromises in order to maintain it. For some of the ruling parties, the very concept of Montenegrin statehood and civic concept of society is questionable. In such a context, the integration of Montenegro into the EU will be particularly difficult once specific problems in the negotiations with Brussels come to the agenda during the closing of individual chapters. In such a socio-political environment, DPS will remain consistent with European values that it fought for and that it has woven into Montenegrin society, and will continue to act as a sharp and strong opposition to the government structures and defend the national interests of Montenegro. Aware that in this time ahead, we must ensure that Montenegro does not falter from the European path and perseveres in the intentions of building a prosperous civic society, we remain strongly committed to strengthening internal and therefore regional stability and further progress in integration. Everything we have achieved so far in this regard is the result of the continuous support and help of our European partners, which we still need. That is why we want to keep you updated with current processes in the region and in Montenegro. Any alternative to the European path and European unification, whether it's internal, regional, or European initiative, is well known and means an even deeper lag behind the European level of economic and democratic development and continuous disruption of regional and European stability. That is why we believe that the European perspective will remain real and that both European and regional leaders will recognize that any kind of challenge should not be an excuse for deviating from certain agreements within the EU, as well the EU and the region, but that everything should be done for Europe to achieve comparative advantage in relation to other global actors. Thank you for your attention.